Las Vegas, November 1969. The Sands Hotel and Casino was at full capacity on a Friday night. The showroom was packed wall to wall. High rollers from New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. Celebrities scattered throughout the crowd. The air thick with cigarette smoke and anticipation. Dean Martin was headlining his second show of the night. The late show that started at midnight and ran until the sun came up if Dean felt like it. And Dean usually felt like it. He was in his element on that stage. Glass of what looked like whiskey but was really apple juice. Microphone in hand. That easy smile that made everyone feel like they were in on the joke. The band was swinging. The audience was laughing. Everything was perfect. Except for the man sitting at table 7. Carlo Marchetti. Everyone in Vegas knew who Carlo was. Knew what he did. Knew not to look at him wrong. Not to ask questions. Not to get in his way. Carlo ran operations for the Chicago outfit. Controlled gambling, loan sharking, labor unions. Had his hands in legitimate businesses from coast to coast. Restaurants, hotels, construction companies. All of it with money that came from places nobody talked about. He was in Vegas for a sit-down. Business that couldn't be handled over the phone. Business that required face-to-face conversations with men who preferred to stay invisible. But Carlo also liked to be seen. Liked people to know he was in town. Liked the fear that came with his presence. The respect. The power. He'd brought 6 associates with him. Big men in dark suits who sat at the surrounding tables. Who watched everything. Who made sure nobody got too close to Carlo without permission. Dean knew Carlo was there. You couldn't miss him. Front and center. Staring at the stage with eyes that never blinked. Never smiled. Never showed anything except cold calculation. Dean had performed in front of these types before. Had taken their money, sung their songs, told his jokes. But he'd always kept his distance. Never socialized. Never owed favors. Never wanted to be in anyone's debt. Frank Sinatra had complicated relationships with these men. Sammy Davis Jr. borrowed money when he got in too deep. But Dean kept it professional. Kept it clean. Kept it separate. Until tonight. Dean was in the middle of a song. Ain't that a kick in the head? The audience swaying. Drinks flowing. Everyone having a good time. Then Carlo stood up. Just stood up in the middle of the song. Didn't applaud. Didn't move toward the exit. Just stood there. Staring at Dean. The people around him noticed. Started looking. Started whispering. Dean kept singing. Kept that smile on his face. But his eyes never left Carlo. The song ended. Applause filled the room. Dean took a sip from his glass. Set it on the piano. Looked directly at Carlo, who was still standing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dean said into the microphone. His voice easy, casual. "We have a very special guest here tonight. Mr. Carlo Marchetti from Chicago." The room went quiet. You could hear ice clinking in glasses. Someone coughed. Carlo didn't move. Didn't sit down. Didn't acknowledge the introduction. Just kept staring. Dean smiled wider. "Mr. Marchetti, you've been standing for a while now. Your legs getting tired? Or are you waiting for something?" Carlo's face remained expressionless. One of his associates leaned over to whisper something, but Carlo raised a hand, silencing him. "I'm waiting for respect," Carlo said. His voice carried through the showroom. Not loud, but clear. Dangerous. Respect? Dean's tone didn't change. Still friendly. Still light. But something in his eyes shifted. You've got my respect, Mr. Marchetti. You bought a ticket. You're watching the show. That's respect. That's business. Carlo took a step forward. Closer to the stage. I didn't buy a ticket. The house gave me a table. Best table. Front and center. Because they know who I am. They know what I represent. Dean nodded slowly. They do know. Everyone knows. You're Carlo Marchetti. You're a very important man. Very powerful. Very connected. Carlo smiled for the first time. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator. That's right. So when I stand up in the middle of your song, you should probably ask me why. Instead of making jokes. The audience was frozen. 300 people holding their breath. Dean's band stopped playing. The piano player's hands hovered over the keys. The drummer's sticks motionless. Dean walked to the edge of the stage. Looked down at Carlo. Okay. I'll ask. Why'd you stand up, Mr. Marchetti? Because I'm bored. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Dean's smile didn't waver. Bored? That's tough. I've got another hour of material. Might want to head out now if you're not enjoying yourself. I paid good money to be here. You said you didn't pay. You said the house gave you the table. Carlo's jaw tightened. Don't play word games with me, Martin. I'm in this room. I'm watching you sing. I'm supporting your career. The least you can do is show some gratitude. Dean was quiet for a moment. The showroom was so silent you could hear the ventilation system humming. Then Dean spoke. His voice softer now. But somehow more powerful. Mr. Marchetti, I appreciate everyone who comes to see me perform. Every single person in this room. I'm grateful for their time, their attention, their support. But gratitude doesn't mean I stop in the middle of a song because someone stands up. Gratitude doesn't mean I ask permission to continue my show. And gratitude definitely doesn't mean I let anyone, no matter how powerful, disrespect the other 299 people in this room who came to have a good time. Carlo's associates shifted in their seats. Hands moving inside jackets. Muscles tensing. Carlo held up a hand again. Stopping them. You think I'm disrespecting these people? Dean gestured to the crowd. You stood up in the middle of a song. You interrupted the show. You made everyone uncomfortable. Yeah, Mr. Marchetti. That's disrespect. You don't talk to me like that. I just did. You don't know who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A man who thinks power gives him the right to ruin other people's evening. A man who thinks fear is the same as respect. A man who's used to people backing down. Carlo's face reddened. You're making a mistake. Dean shook his head. No, you're making a mistake. You came into my show. My stage. My audience. And you think you can intimidate me? You think I'm going to stop singing? Going to ask you what's wrong? Going to give you attention like you're the only person who matters? Carlo stepped closer to the stage. Right up to the edge. His associates stood up now too. All 6 of them. Surrounding the stage area. The crowd pulled back. Some people started to leave. Quietly. Carefully. Not making eye contact with anyone. Dean didn't move. Just stood there at the edge of the stage. Looking down at Carlo. You should be careful, Martin. Accidents happen. Careers end. People get hurt. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Dean's smile finally disappeared. His voice dropped even lower. Mr. Marchetti, let me tell you a fact. I've been performing in this town for 20 years. I've met men like you 100 times. Men who think violence makes them strong. Men who think fear makes them important. Men who confuse power with respect. And I've learned something about men like you. What's that? You need the fear more than we need to be afraid. The room was absolutely silent. Carlo stared at Dean. Dean stared back. Neither man moving. Neither man blinking. You're going to regret this, Carlo said finally. Maybe, Dean said. But I'll regret it standing up. Not on my knees. Carlo's hand moved toward his jacket. His associates tensed. The audience gasped. Security guards appeared at the edges of the showroom. 5 of them. Then 10. Then 15. All moving toward the stage. The Sands head of security, a former Marine named Jack Morrison, stepped between Carlo and the stage. Mr. Marchetti, I'm going to have to ask you to sit down or leave. Carlo looked at Jack. Looked at the security guards. Looked at Dean. This isn't over. Then it continued somewhere else, Dean said. Not in my show. Carlo stared for another long moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. Loud and genuine. He turned to his associates. Did you hear this guy? He's got balls. I'll give him that. He looked back at Dean. You know what, Martin? I like you. You don't back down. I respect that. Dean's expression didn't change. That's nice. Now sit down or get out. Carlo laughed again. Shook his head. Walked toward the exit. His associates followed. The whole group leaving the showroom. The doors closed behind them. The audience exhaled collectively. Someone started clapping. Then someone else. Then the entire room. Standing ovation. Dean waved them down. Picked up his glass. Took a sip. Looked at the band. Where were we? The piano player smiled. Ain't that a kick in the head? Right. Let's take it from the top. And Dean sang. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just faced down a mob boss in front of 300 people. Like his hands weren't shaking behind his back where nobody could see. The show went on for another hour. Dean performed every song perfectly. Told every joke. Charmed every person in that room. But everyone knew what they'd witnessed. Everyone knew what Dean had done. Word spread through Vegas like wildfire. By morning, every casino, every hotel, every restaurant knew the story. Dean Martin told Carlo Marchetti to sit down or get out. Dean Martin didn't back down. Dean Martin stood his ground. Frank Sinatra called the next day. Dean, what the hell were you thinking? He was interrupting my show. He's a killer, Dean. A stone-cold killer. Then he should know better than to interrupt someone's performance. Frank was quiet for a moment. You know he could have killed you right there. He could have. But he didn't. Why not? Because, Dean said slowly, men like Carlo don't respect fear. They feed on it. But when someone stands up to them, when someone treats them like they're not special, not untouchable, not above everyone else, it confuses them. Makes them pause. Makes them think. You gambled with your life on that theory? Dean sipped his drink. I gambled on the fact that Carlo likes being feared more than he likes killing people. And I was right. This time. Yeah. This time. 3 days later, Dean got a visitor at his house. A man in an expensive suit. Polite. Professional. Clearly connected. Mr. Martin, my name is Vincent Castellano. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Marchetti. Dean was having breakfast on his patio. Didn't invite the man to sit. What does Mr. Marchetti want? Mr. Castellano smiled. He wants you to know he respects what you did. Standing up to him. Not backing down. He thinks you've got courage. That's nice. He'd like to meet with you. Privately. To discuss a business opportunity. Not interested. Mr. Martin, you can stop right there, Dean interrupted. I don't do business with Mr. Marchetti. I don't socialize with Mr. Marchetti. I don't want opportunities from Mr. Marchetti. If he wants to watch my show, he can buy a ticket like everyone else. And he needs to sit down and be quiet. Mr. Castellano's smile faded. Mr. Marchetti doesn't appreciate being dismissed. Then Mr. Marchetti should appreciate that I'm treating him like everyone else. Like he's not special. Like he's just another guy in the audience. That's real respect, Mr. Castellano. Not fear. Not favors. Not pretending he's more important than he is. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Mr. Castellano laughed. Dean finished his breakfast. Called Jack Morrison at the Sands. Jack, I might have just made things worse. What did you do? Turned down a meeting with Carlo. Jack was silent. Then, you really don't give a damn, do you? Dean thought about it. I give a damn about a lot of things. My family. My work. My integrity. But I don't give a damn about impressing mob bosses or pretending they're something they're not. I'll increase security at your shows. I appreciate that. But Jack, if Carlo wants to kill me, extra security won't stop him. Probably not. But it'll make me feel better. That night, Dean performed at the Sands again. The showroom was packed. Everyone wanted to see if Carlo would come back. If there'd be another confrontation. If Dean would back down this time. Carlo didn't show. But his associates did. 4 of them. Different table. Same cold stares. Same silent intimidation. Dean saw them. Acknowledged them with a nod. Then ignored them completely. Did his entire show without mentioning them? Without acknowledging their presence beyond that initial nod. After the show, one of Carlo's associates came backstage. Dean was in his dressing room. The man knocked. Dean's manager answered. Started to close the door. Dean stopped him. It's fine. Let him in. The associate entered. Big guy. Scarred knuckles. Eyes that had seen things. Mr. Martin, I'm Tony Soprano. Not the TV character, a real guy with the same name who worked for Carlo. Dean nodded. What can I do for you, Tony? Mr. Marchetti wants you to know something. What's that? He's not coming after you. He's not sending anyone after you. He's letting it go. Dean took off his bow tie. Loosened his collar. Why? Because, Tony said slowly, you treated him like a person. Not a boss. Not a killer. Not someone to be afraid of. Just a guy being rude in a showroom. And when he threatened you, when he tried to scare you, you didn't beg. Didn't apologize. Didn't try to make a deal. You just told him to sit down or leave. Like he was anybody else. Tony paused. Mr. Marchetti says that's the first time in 30 years someone talked to him like he was a regular person. And he realized he missed it. Missed being treated like his power wasn't the only thing that mattered. Missed being respected for something other than fear. Dean poured himself a real drink this time. Offered one to Tony. Tony accepted. So what happens now? Tony shrugged. Now you do your shows. We watch from a distance. And if anyone ever tries to hurt you, if anyone ever threatens you, they'll have to go through Mr. Marchetti first. Because you gave him something nobody else has in decades. What's that? The truth. Straight up. No fear. No games. Just honest words from someone who wasn't trying to use him or afraid of him. Someone who treated him like he was human. Tony finished his drink. Set the glass down. Good luck, Mr. Martin. Thanks, Tony. After Tony left, Dean sat alone in his dressing room. Thought about what had just happened. He'd faced down a mob boss. Told him to sit down or leave. Risked his life for one show. For his pride. For his principles. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. Not because Carlo was soft. Not because Carlo was weak. But because Dean had treated him like a human being who was being rude. Not a monster. Not a god. Just a man who needed to learn some manners. Years later, in 1974, Dean was performing at Caesar's Palace. After the show, an old man in a wheelchair came backstage. He was thin. Gray. Moving slowly. But his eyes were still sharp. Still calculating. Carlo Marchetti. Dean's security moved to block him. Dean waved them off. It's okay. Carlo wheeled himself into the dressing room. Dean's manager left. Closed the door behind him. They were alone. Carlo, Dean said. Dean. They looked at each other. 5 years since that night at the Sands. 5 years since Dean told him to sit down or get out. I'm dying, Carlo said. His voice was weak now. Raspy. Cancer. Doctors give me 6 months. Maybe less. I'm sorry to hear that. Carlo waved a hand. Don't be. I lived longer than I had any right to. Did things I shouldn't have. Hurt people who didn't deserve it. Made more money than I could spend. But all of it, all those years, all that power, and nobody ever talked to me like you did that night. Nobody ever treated me like I was just a guy in a showroom. Dean sat down across from him. Is that why you're here? To say thanks? Carlo laughed. Coughed. Laughed again. Yeah. To say thanks. And to tell you something. What's that? You were right. About everything. Power isn't respect. Fear isn't strength. And treating people like they're beneath you, like they don't matter, like they're just obstacles or opportunities, that's not living. That's just existing. Dean didn't say anything. Just listened. After that night, Carlo continued, I started treating people different. Not everyone. I'm still who I am. Still did what I did. But the people around me, the people who worked for me, I treated them like they were human. Like they mattered. And you know what? They worked harder. Stayed more loyal. Respected me more. Not because they feared me. Because they knew I saw them. Carlo looked at Dean. You taught me that. In one sentence. Sit down or get out. Like I was just another person. Not a mob boss. Not a killer. Just a guy who needed to learn some respect. Dean leaned forward. Carlo, I didn't do it to teach you anything. I did it because you were interrupting my show. I know. That's what made it real. You weren't trying to prove a point. Weren't trying to be brave. Weren't trying to impress anyone. You were just being yourself. Drawing a line. Saying this is my stage, my show, my rules, and I don't care who you are. They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Dean spoke. How much time do you have? 6 months. Maybe less. What are you going to do with it? Carlo smiled. I'm going to sit in showrooms. Watch performances. Applaud when I should. Stay quiet when I should. And if anyone asks why, I'll tell them Dean Martin taught me how to be a good audience member. Dean laughed. That's a hell of a legacy. Better than what I would have had. Better than being remembered as the guy who killed people who crossed him. Now I'll be remembered as the guy Dean Martin told to sit down. And I did. They shook hands. Carlo wheeled himself out. Dean never saw him again. Carlo Marchetti died 4 months later. His obituary mentioned his business dealings, his connections, his power. But at his funeral, one of his associates told a story. About the night Carlo stood up during Dean Martin's show. About how Dean told him to sit down or get out. About how Carlo walked out. And then came back years later to say thank you. For treating him like a person. For giving him one honest moment in a life full of fear and violence and power games. That's the real story. Not that Dean Martin faced down a mob boss. Not that he risked his life for his pride. But that Dean Martin saw a man being rude and treated him like any other rude person. With honesty. With directness. With the expectation that even powerful people should have manners. One line changed everything. Not because it was clever. Not because it was brave. But because it was true. Sit down or get out. 5 words that said, you're not special here. You're not above the rules. You're not more important than everyone else. You're just a guy in a showroom. And guys in showrooms need to sit down and watch the show. Carlo Marchetti heard those words. Understood them. Respected them. And in the final years of his life, he tried to live by them. All because Dean Martin refused to be intimidated. Refused to back down. Refused to pretend that power made someone special. That's strength. That's courage. That's what it means to stand up for what's right. Not with violence. Not with threats. Not with fear. Just with truth. Honest, direct, uncompromising truth. Dean Martin had that truth. And on one night in November 1969, he used it to change a mob boss's life. With 5 simple words. Sit down or get out.